Okay, so we're in the Maimer Va'ata B'Rachamecha, Harabim, Tavshin Memches. The Maimer the Rebbe said on Chanukah 1987, 31-year anniversary this year, and we're in the middle of chapter 3. So we said that there are 3 miracles that happen with Chanukah. There's the military victory, that a small group of weak guerrilla fighters defeated a very mighty Syrian Greek army. That's one miracle. Another miracle is that they found oil that was not contaminated by the Greeks, that still had the seal of the high priest intact. And the third miracle is that that oil that was enough to burn for one day burned for 8 days. Those are the 3 miracles of Hanukkah. And the Rebbe explains that these 3 miracles happened on 3 different days. So the military victory, when did they defeat their enemy? That was on the 24th of Kislev. When did they find the oil? The next day on the 25th. And when did we start to see the miracle of the oil lasting 8 days? When did that start to become clear? That was on the 26th. So the Rebbe says like this. We said in the beginning of chapter 3, and so the question we asked, if we have these 3 miracles, so why is Hanukkah established on the 25th? Why don't we have any commemoration on the 24th to commemorate the military victory, and on the 26th to commemorate the 8-day burning of the oil? We're commemorating all 3, but why only on the 25th? That's the day that we establish Hanukkah. So that's the question on the table. But the Rebbe explains like this: says these 3 miracles represent 3 different dimensions of godliness, 3 different levels. In Chassidic terminology that we explained in the last class, you have Yechuda Tata, Yechuda Ilah, and you have higher, Havaya de Le'ela, higher than Yechuda Ilah. What does that mean? Yechuda Tata means the lower level of unity, and that we explained is that when you look at the world, you see that the world has no independent existence. Its existence is entirely dependent on God. So I look at an incredible world around me, and I see that points to an incredible creator, right? So it's the world. It's by looking at the world that I see its creator. So if I think deeply into reality and I recognize that the world's existence is a conditional existence, it's not an independent one, it exists only because God brings it into existence. So I have an appreciation of God that's called Yechuda Tata, because it's from the world I understand God's greatness from the greatness of His creation. Then you have Yechuda Ilah, where we recognize that all of creation is nothing, doesn't tell us anything about God. God is far removed from that. Right? That's Yechuda Ilah, that's the higher level unity, where I recognize that. So in the analogy we gave in the last class was of throwing a stone, right? So you have a stone that is an inanimate object, it doesn't move, and a person throws the stone. So when I look at the stone, I see the flying stone, I recognize immediately that the stone itself doesn't fly. It's not a bird, it's a stone, it doesn't move. Why is it flying? Because there's a force that's much greater than it that propels it. So I understand the greatness of the one who threw the stone based on looking at the stone. So the stone's flying is an unnatural phenomenon. It's not its natural thing. The world's existence is unnatural. It's really non-existent. So that's why it means the unity. We recognize God's unity with His creation, but it's the lower level because it's through the creation we can understand the greatness. But when I look at the stone, going back to the analogy, I look at the stone and I see the strength of the one who threw it. Right? And you could tell the one who could throw a bigger stone and throw it further is a stronger person than somebody who could throw a weaker, smaller stone a shorter distance. But when I recognize that doesn't tell me anything about the thrower's intelligence, let's say, or his personality, right? So there's so much more that's beyond that. So it means that the throwing of the stone is something that's completely insignificant to the one who threw it. So that's the Yechuda Ilah, that's the higher level unity of God. And so we have nature as we have how we see God through nature. Then we recognize that the world itself doesn't tell us anything about God, that it's completely insignificant to God. But then there's a higher level, and that is a level of God where the world is non-existent. So it's not only God as He's within creation, and not God as He is the creator of creation, implying that He's obviously much greater than the sum total of His accomplishments in creation. But that there's a level where there is no creation, where the world is non-existent. So that's the higher level. So that, and to put it in other terms, that also we've been using is there's higher than Ishtalshlus and there's in Ishtalshlus. Ishtalshlus means how God is in the creative process. So you have within creation, then you have as God sets that course in motion. But then you have higher than Ishtalshlus, you have where there is no world whatsoever. So this, the Rebbe ties to these three miracles. All three are miracles. We've established that all three are miracles, right? But the miracle of the military victory came about through a war, right? So it's possible for people to go later and study the tactics of the Maccabees and see how they were able to do it. So granted, it was a miracle. Maybe it was highly improbable and unlikely, but it was still something that still went through natural means. So that is we see God working through nature. Then you have the finding of the oil, which is beyond nature. So we explained that what was the symbolism of the oil not being contaminated by the Greeks. It represents a level of godliness which cannot be contaminated. So it's not just the miracle itself of finding oil. That's a miracle, because why would there be one left that why would there be one left that the Greeks overlooked and that they had happened to find that one, like a needle in a haystack? So, but besides that, it's what that miracle represents, which is that there's a level of godliness, of holiness that can't be impacted by the Greeks. So that's a higher level, right? That we said represents Yechida, which has no menagid, there's no opposition to it. So that's already higher. That's Yechuda Ilah. That's the next level up in miracles. And finally, you have the miracle of the oil burning for 8 days, which defies all laws of nature. It's completely unnatural, completely beyond any of that. So that represents God, which is completely transcendent, totally beyond any of the created reality. And then the Rebbe says that this then connects to why these miracles took place on the days they took place. So the first miracle, the miracle that corresponds to Yechuda Tata, the miracle of the military victory happens on the 24th day of Kislev. The 24th corresponds to the 24 letters of Baruch Shem Kvei Malchusei Le'olam Vad, which we say Baruch Shem is Yechuda Tata. What's Baruch Shem? When we say Baruch Shem Kvei Malchusei in the davening, what do we say? We're drawing down. Every word of Baruch Shem is drawing that unity, the higher level of unity, into the lower level, into this world. So we draw blessing into our world. The Olam Vad, the last words, to time and space. So that's an awareness of God, a unity of God, as it is expressed, manifest in creation. That corresponds to the 24 letters. So we see the 24 connects to Yechuda Tata. The miracle of finding the oil, which is Yechuda Ilah, the higher unity, happens on the 25th. The 25th corresponds to the 25 letters of Shema Yisrael. Shema Yisrael is Yechuda Ilah, the higher level of unity. And then you have the miracle that's completely beyond, even higher than Yechuda Ilah, totally beyond God in relationship to His creation, and that happens on the 26th. The 26th corresponds to the 26th, the numerical value of Hashem Havaya, right? God's name, the numerical value is 26. So, how does that represent higher? So that's what we're getting into now. So we're saying that there are two levels in Havaya. Okay, so again, so we have three levels of miracles. One is Yechuda Tata, a miracle within creation. Yechuda Ilah, which is beyond, where you see that the creation is not a challenge. It doesn't conceal godliness. And then you have even higher than that, right? And that's 24, 25, and 26. So when we're talking about Shem Havaya, so what does that mean? That 26, we said Shema Yisrael is Yechuda Ilah, but then we're saying Shem Havaya is higher even than Yechuda Ilah. Well, we say Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad. So how do we understand? So we're working our way through that concept right now. Okay, so we're in the middle of chapter 3. We're holding the words are the Hagam. The middle of Vayz Gimel, yeah. The Hagam, so we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines into chapter 3. The Hagam. So he says like this: Hagam shegam Yechuda Ilah hu b'shem Havaya Echad. We're saying that there's Yechuda Tata, which is Baruch Shem. There's Yechuda Ilah, which is Shema Yisrael, and then there's higher than that, which is Havaya. But Shema Yisrael, why is Shema Yisrael Yechuda Ilah? Because we say Havaya Echad, right? So we have Havaya in that Havaya is one in Shema. So what does that mean? That there's higher than that, and that's Havaya. Right? So he says, we know that the bittul, the lack of the total submission and surrender of reality to godliness, as it is in relation to the name Elikim. Elikim we know represents nature, God as He's concealed in nature. So that's Yechuda Tata, God being concealed in nature. So when I recognize that it's God in nature, so there's something, but that something is completely nullified to its creation, right? So going back to the analogy, Yechuda Tata means it's not an independent existence. It's a dependent existence, but it's an existence nonetheless. So that's Yechuda Tata. That's Elikim. Va'bitul yichud ilah, bitul b'metzias, hu dafka mitzat Shem Havaya. And as it's explained also that yichud ilah, this higher level of unity, that comes from Shem Havaya, that at the transcendent name of God, that represents total nullification. It has no existence. So the fact that in the Shema we say Havaya Echad, that God is one, and not Havaya Yachid, not God is the only. So and what is the significance of Echad when we say God is one? So we say this is brought in Halach and Shulchan Aruch that the word Echad is Aleph is one, Aluf Shalom, that represents God. Ches is the 7 heavens and earth. And Dalet is the 4 corners of the world, right? So the Ches and the Dalet, all of reality, all of created reality is completely nullified and nothing, totally submitted to the Aleph, right? So even in the word Echad, it starts with the Aleph. That's the primary part of the word. That's the main part of the word. And so therefore you have Echad, the Ches and the Dalet are totally nullified to the Aleph, right? And that's what we're supposed to think when we say Shema, when we say Hashem Echad, that in Echad that there's that total oneness of God that permeates all of existence. So when we say this, why do we say Havaya Delisata? Why is it that we're saying when we say Havaya Echad, so that we're saying is only lower? That's only Yechuda Ilah, because here we're talking about a world that's completely nullified to God, but still it doesn't. There's a level of, in other words, we're saying Havaya Echad, God is one, and we're trying to emphasize, what does it mean that God's one? That even though I look around, I see a world, so what am I contemplating, what am I thinking? That this world is nothing. It's all the Aleph. It's all the Aleph. It's all God. But you can also say Havaya Yachid, God is the only. And not the only God, but the only existence, which would negate any kind of other existence. Would tell me that they would dismiss there's no other existence, only God. So when I say Havaya Echad, I'm saying that there's an existence, but that existence is totally nullified to God. Right? So that's the lower level of Havaya.
Why not a subset?
That was lower. That's Baruch Shem. That's Yechuda Tata, the lower unity. Right? That there's an existence that is one with God. But here we're saying that it's only God. That the Ches and the Dalid are all part of the Aleph.
But in fact, it's both, because we perceive ourselves.
That's right. We work at different levels, right? But that's the level that we're talking about in Shema Yisrael. So this Masha Kasuf. Havaya Elokeinu Havaya Echad. This is what we say in Shema. You should say Shema Yisrael Havaya Elokeinu Echad. Right? Our God is one. Why did he say Havaya Elokeinu? God is our God. Havaya is our God. Havaya Echad. God is one. 2 times Havaya. So the Havaya Rishon Havaya Dele'ela Shalamayla Mishtalshus. The first time it says Havaya Elokeinu, that is, and by the way, what are we saying? When we're saying that higher level of deeper meaning here in Shema is that there's the Havaya Echad, the oneness of God that's expressed in reality. And that's a higher level of unity, mind you. Right? We're talking about Yechuda Ilah. But we're saying, but who's Elokeinu? The first Havaya. That Havaya is Elokeinu, that's a higher, we're talking about a different level of Havaya. A higher level. Right? So the Havaya Rishon Hu Havaya Dele'ela Shalamayla Mishtalshus. The first Havaya, that is the higher Havaya, which is higher than all of creation. You can't say that Havaya is one and permeates all of creation, the 7 heavens, earth, and the 4 corners, because he's the only existence and there's nothing else. So there is nothing else. It's just Havaya. But the second level of Havaya, that is the Havaya of creation. And therefore we could say Echad, that is one. Amen. So this now, we're coming back to the point of the miracle of the oil lasting 8 days, which happens on the 26th, 26, which is the numerical value of Havaya, and we're talking about the higher level Havaya. So we see the advantage of the burning of the oil for 8 days over the miracle of the finding the oil, which we said is a very high miracle. The miracle of finding the oil represents God as reality doesn't pose any opposition. That's how they weren't able to affect that oil. But this is an even higher level. Why? This miracle of finding the oil which we said comes from, which happens on the 25th. It corresponds to the 25 letters of Shema Yisrael. That's the higher level of unity. That comes from the lower Havaya. Havaya Echad, where God is one. This idea of the oil burning for 8 days, that comes from the higher level of Havaya, and that's why the Rebbe throws in here in the end of the paragraph. That's also why it happens for 8 days. The oil burns for 8 days. Why? Because 8 corresponds to beyond the natural order, beyond creation. Right? We discussed this last year in the Maimon last year. We explored this deeper. Yeah, transcendental level, but one that's totally beyond it. So we see that you have these 3 levels of miracles. There's Yichud Tata, Yichud Ilah, and then higher than Havai Del Eila, which is even higher than Yichud Ilah. Oh, das geben sagen weiter. Oh, so we're working our way towards that. To the end, that's going to help us answer the question, how each one leads to the next. We're going to look at both ways. Yeah, we're going to get there. Okay. So now we're saying, we've been studying, in fact, some of the Mamarim we've been talking about before, we've been learning about Yechida, and how Yechida has no menaged, there's no opposition to Yechida, right? It's totally one with God. And suddenly here we're introducing another level, even beyond that. We're saying Havai Del Eila, even higher than that. So here in this next paragraph, the Rebbe is going to explain that everything's relative. When we're talking about in relation to Yichud Tata, Yichud Ilah, that's the highest. But if you're going to go higher than that, Yichud Ilah is also a lower level. So he says like this. This is why in Shema Yisrael we say that we said Shema Yisrael is Yichud Ilah, and that is Chafei Asvan. Right? That we quoted from the Zohar. 25 letters in the Shema, and the 25 letters correspond to Yichud Ilah. And yet, Chaf Hei is Bechinas Koi. The letters Chaf Hei, 25, yet Chaf Hei spell the word Koi. Like this. What is the significance of that? That Avshi Yichud Ilah Bechlal Bechinas Zeh. It says, Kol Hanavim Nisnabu Bekoi, and Moshe was Nisnabu Bezeh. That all the prophets, when they prophesy, they say, Koi Amar Hashem. Right? What does that mean? That the prophets, when they were receiving prophecy, they didn't speak to God face to face. Right? It says that Moshe, what's the difference? There's no prophet like Moshe. Moses saw God face to face, meaning all the other prophets didn't see face to face. So what did they see? They saw some kind of an image, they saw some kind of a metaphor, and they, because they were prophets, were able to interpret it. Right? Like, you know about the Yirmiyah's vision, where Yirmiyah says, he sees a makal shakid, right? He sees an almond staff that's blossoming, and he understood from that what the message God was sending him was. So when a prophet prophesies, he says, Koyamar Hashem. God said something like this, and it means whatever it means. Whereas Moshe could say, Zeh, this is what God said. Right? Why? Because Moshe speaks to God face to face. So we have Zeh and Koi. So Chassidus explains that Koi, like this, where I don't see the thing itself, so that's Yichud Tata. How am I getting to God? By looking at His as creation. So it's from creation that I come to God. So I can only say Koi. I can only extrapolate, right, from what I'm looking at backwards. So that's Koi. Zeh is the thing itself. When you don't see the higher level, Yichud Ilah is when I don't see the world for what it is. I see the godliness in it. So there already you could say Zeh, this. Right? Obviously for us that doesn't mean literally you could say that you don't see God. It says when Mashiach comes, we'll say Zeh, Hine Lekeinu Zeh.
Isn't even that a stretch to say that you can see God through His creations? Like Kali isn't...
No, we've talked about this in the past. If you the more you understand the creation, the reality, the greatness of creation, the more you will come to an understanding of the greatness of the Creator.
I was talking to a man the other night, and he was talking about how in the older times there was more of a connection with God in the world. There was more.
We're getting closer to Him now. Every day we get closer. Yeah. Okay. So usually we talk about Yichud Tata being Koi and Yichud Ilah being Zeh. And here we're saying Shema Yisrael, which is Yichud Ilah, that's Koi. Right? Avshi Yichud Ilah Bechlal Hu Bechina Zeh Ki Havai Del Sata L'Gabi Havai Del Eila Nechshav K'may Lekim Tzimtzum. So the Rebbe says here, because it's all relative. When we're talking about in Shema Yisrael, it's Koi. I'm sorry, Shema Yisrael is Yichud Ilah, so that's really Zeh. But Shema Yisrael is only Yichud Ilah. And in Shema Yisrael we say Havaya, we have two Havayas, the higher Havaya. So for the higher Havaya, Yichud Ilah is Taka Koi. Everything's relative. It depends what we're comparing it to. So okay, Vaidel Sat L'Gabe Vaidel Eila Nechshav K'may Elikim Tzimtzum. right? It's considered like what's Elikim is Tzimtzum. Elikim is God concealing himself, limiting himself to allow space for creation. So if you're going to contrast Havaya de Le'ela, God as he's totally beyond any creation, and God as he is still transcendent and beyond creation, but as he's now moving towards creating. In a sense, God as he puts on the creator hat, even if he hasn't actually limited himself yet and created Elikim, created nature, created reality, but the fact that he's moving towards that is already some form of definition. Definition is tzimtzum. It's defining. It's limiting. So with regard to Havaya de Le'ela, Havaya de Tata is already Elikim, is tzimtzum. So it's already the lower level, it's koi. Right? So if you're going to contrast Yichud Ilah to Havaya de Le'ela, that's, we can call it koi. You call it like Yichud Tata. In the same, we can apply to the finding of the oil on the 25th. Right? It happened on the 25th. That's the level of koi. Just as in Shema Yisrael, there are 25 letters which are koi, even though we're talking about Yichud Ilah. Same is true with regard to the finding of the oil, which was corresponds to Yichud Ilah and happens on the 25th. Also koi. Because it's koi in comparison to Havaya de Le'ela. V'amitis inyan b'chinas zehu ba'anes l'aspakas Hashem l'shmeni yamim shisach b'chavav b'kislev. Shem shechasei hu me'Havaya de Le'ela shalamayim mishtalshlos. The main miracle of total transcendence of Havaya de Le'ela, that happens on the 26th, the miracle of the oil burning for 8 days. Yep. Everything adds up so far? Okay. Chapter 4. I remember our Maimer is based on a Maimer the Friedrich Rebbe said 50 years before this one, which is on Chanukah 1937. So in the Maimer the Friedrich Rebbe says that it's something that is quoted a lot in the Mamarim, something that's asked in the Mamarim, that the natives of Chanukah, we know there's a principle in Halacha that when the sages institute something, they model it after biblical institutions. So their mitzvahs are modeled after Torah, after mitzvahs of the Torah. So therefore, if they're going to establish something, they're going to model it after it. Especially if you're going to commemorate something, you want it to be similar. So if the Chachamim are instituting a mitzvah of lighting a menorah, so shouldn't it be modeled after the lighting of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, the mitzvah of lighting the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash? And yet we find that in the Beis Hamikdash, the menorah was lit. First of all, the menorah was 7 branches. And second of all, the menorah was lit during the daytime. And our menorah is 8 branches and lit after nightfall. Not supposed to be lit during the day. Right? So it's not the same. So he says like the Friedrich Rebbe notes that the miracle of Chanukah, the lighting of the candles, our Chanukah menorah, is because of the miracle that happened with the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash, the burning of the oil in the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. The Chachamim, the sages, everything they establish is modeled after a biblical sort of precedent. Yet they're different. The menorah in the Beis Hamikdash was 7 candles, and where was it standing in the Beis Hamikdash? It was in the holy, right, in the sanctuary, and we're on the south side of the sanctuary, which is the right side, right? You have north, south, east, and west. You know that in the Torah, east is called, well, besides it's Mizrach, but it's Kedma, forward, right? So you have east is forward, Ma'ariv is backwards. So if you're standing facing east, facing forward, so south is the right, and the north is the left. That's also why the south is warmer and the north is colder, right? Because the right is kindness and the north is, and the left is severity. It says, "Mitzafin tipasach hara," the unholy that comes from, or the evil that's going to come from the north, from severity. So the right, that's south, right? So the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash stood on the south side. That's on the right side. The menorah in our Chanukah menorah is 8 candles, and where do we put it? On the left side. On when you put it in a doorway, you have the mezuzah mimin and Chanukah mismail. Mezuzah goes on the right side, the menorah goes on the left side. So the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash was on the right side, 7 candles. Our menorah is 8 candles on the left side. So Inyan whom. So, as explained in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, the Mulcham is Haivanim Ha'izim Mulcham Ruchnis Lashkicham Teresecha Lavir Mechokir Tzenacha. Right, that the battle, the war that the Greeks were waging against the Jews was to have them forget the Torah and to take them away from a mitzvah observance. So this decree, these decrees that the Syrian Greeks were enacting and imposing on the Jewish people, this created a great darkness. right? The great challenges to Jewish observance. So this idea of the intensity of the unholy, that comes from tzad hasmol, from the left side, the side of unholiness. So then, when the Chashmonaim family, when they and the Maccabees defeat the Greeks, so they establish Hanukkah to do what? To illuminate that darkness. So there's a darkness created by the Syrian Greeks. That darkness of banning Jewish observance and study. And when they defeated them, so what did they do? They need to now illuminate that darkness that they created, the darkness of their enlightenment and their culture that they were trying to impose. And so since the idea of the victory demonstrates the illuminating the darkness, right, created by the enemy, so therefore it was established with 8 candles. Because as we said earlier, 8 is higher than Hishtalshel, is higher than the natural order. How do you illuminate the darkness? That comes from higher than Hishtalshus, from higher than reality. So in the created reality, as we talk about God being concealed in creation, it's possible for there to be opposition, to the point that there could even be darkness, where we can say that there could be a force that says not to serve God. That's concealment, that's darkness. So how do you defeat that? How do you illuminate that darkness? By introducing something that's even higher than it. So there's a level of godliness that could be silenced, could be concealed. But then there's a level that can't be concealed, and that's what we have to draw from higher. That's the Havaya Yagia Chashkin. It says in Tanakh, David HaMelech says, Ki ata neiri Havaya v'Havaya Yagia Chashki. You are my candle, God, and God illuminates my darkness. Right, so twice it says Havaya in the pasuk. So Kiata Neiri Havaya, God is my candle. That's the lower. That's Havaya de Lasata, the lower level Havaya that like we were talking about earlier. But Vahavaya Gia Chashki, Vavaya, and he says, it's B'Taisus Vav, that it's the higher level. There's another Havaya that illuminates the darkness. That's already the next level. God is my candle. That's Yichud Ilah, right? That's Havaya Echad. But Vahavaya Gia Chashki, in order to illuminate the darkness, I have to introduce even higher than that. I have to bring in. And Vavai have to draw down from higher than reality into created reality, into Ishtalshus. How is it that they were able to access this light? They were able to reach this higher level. So that is through Mesiris Nefesh of Matisyahu and his sons. This means that this light illuminating the darkness, there are 2 aspects of it. There's what coming from below to above, meaning what happens, the circumstances down here that dictate that form of service, and then the effect that it has, the impact it has. So he says like this: the first thing is from below to above, meaning Matisyahu and his children, how they end up getting to Mesiris Nefesh, how they end up drawing from higher. So it started with the facts on the ground. There was challenge to Judaism was being banned. The practice of Judaism was being banned. It required Mesiris Nefesh. So that's Mulmat al-Maila. The circumstances, the darkness dictated or forced them, compelled them, brought them to Mesiris Nefesh. Right? They weren't allowed to do these things, and yet they defied those orders and did what they felt they had to do. So through the darkness, right? So because of this great darkness that was then, the darkness brought by the Syrian Greeks, that inspired within them the koyach ha-mesiris nefesh shel ma'ala mishtalshel sheba adam. By day zeh imshichu me'atzmos harin tzef shel ma'ala mishtalshel. And through that they were able to draw, Mesiris Nefesh brings about the essence of the divine light that's higher than creation. And what's a mu'mayla lamata? The impact that it has. The impact of that is that then this light in turn illuminates that darkness. So we have the darkness itself bringing a person, moving them to Mesiris Nefesh. And the result of Mesiris Nefesh is that darkness now becomes illuminated. Sha'or sheher b'migdash kiven sham shachasa hesolay al demesis nefesh ha'igili dishtash zayner is v'lachin wakam amenorah ha'bedar mimin kibim ha'isa midas b'tzafin smol ha'yav shali yisini kesachtzaynim v'neris chanukah shalacher Mesiris Nefesh who hem chesneris oy shalmal mishal shemsakin eskav hasmol. So now we can understand why the contrast, that in the Beis HaMikdash, the menorah, the light of the Beis HaMikdash didn't come from Mesiris Nefesh. And so since it didn't come from Mesiris Nefesh, you didn't have Mesiris Nefesh, therefore you weren't able to draw that higher light. And so were they to put the menorah in the base of Mikdash of 7, which is the natural order, put it in the north side, in the left side, so that would then possibly open the door for there to be unholy, it could then be perverted by the ungodly forces, because it's a natural light that you're talking about. It's not one that comes about from higher than the possibility of darkness. But after the darkness, what happens afterwards? You have the menorah of Hanukkah, which since it comes through Mesiris Nefesh, you have the ability to illuminate the darkness, which is why the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash is 7 candles representing Hishtalshelus, the natural order of things, and therefore, so the two are related. The fact that it's 7 candles and that it's on the Darim on the south side or the right side is related, and the fact that our menorah is 8 candles and on the left is also connected. Since it's 8, meaning drawing from higher than Hishtalshelus, so as a result, we can put it on the left side and illuminate the darkness. Right? We have time to continue a little or no? Okay. Chapter 5. So based on this is here, this is the Rebbe's Chiddush now here. Where the Rebbe is now going to say in chapter 5, and this you'll notice, the chapter 5 doesn't even have any footnotes. That's always usually a giveaway that it's a new Chiddush here in the Maimer. You don't cite any other sources. So chapter 5, the Rebbe is going to say like this. We've basically been talking about 3 miracles and 3 different levels, right? We've talked about the miracle of the military victory, happens through the natural order, Yichud Tata. Then we talk about the finding of the oil, Yichud Eilah. And then we're speaking about the miracle of the 8 days, the oil lasting 8 days higher than Yichud Eilah, that's Havai de Eilah. Now the Rebbe is going to say that the underlying current of all 3 miracles is Havai de Eilah. That even in the military victory you find the same thing. That Havai de Eilah, this higher transcendent level, is found in all 3. So this is like this. Based on the fact that we could say, in the Maimer it says that the Mesiris Nefesh, the Mataseo Banav Yimshicho Eir Shalamayla Mishtal Shazavai Delayla. Right? We just quoted that how is it that they're able to reach the access to this higher level? It's because of Mesiris Nefesh. Right? Where was the Mesiris Nefesh? Where did the people have self-sacrifice? When they went to war. So if Mesiris Nefesh is accessing the highest level, higher than Ishtalshalos, Mesiris Nefesh is brought about, and that causes that's beyond the limitations of the natural order. So that was expressed where during the war. Yeah. So if the fact that they can draw this higher light that can illuminate the darkness came as a result of Mesiris Nefesh, where was Mesiris Nefesh? In the war. That's where they were having Mesiris Nefesh. So then clearly within that miracle, or within that sacrifice in the war, is embedded that light. In other words, the premise basically that the Rebbe is supposing here, building it on, is that if you're going to draw something from a higher level, clearly what you're doing has some kind of connection to it. So if we're going to just look at them as different levels and isolated levels, there's Yichud Tata and there's Havai Delayla. How do you get from Yichud Tata to Havai Delayla? You were asking about that before. How do you go from a military victory to suddenly drawing light that can illuminate darkness? The only way must be that already in that act itself, you already have that higher level.
So it's a response to our Ishtadlis? That's what you're saying?
It's not just a response to our Ishtadlis. It's connected. It's one and the same thing.
But
It's two ways of looking at it. Our doing here is dictated by the darkness, and the result of that, the impact is, the effect on it is that it illuminates the darkness. Yeah. So both our effort, but it's not just that it's our effort. Our effort itself is already that higher level.
because of what inspired
We live in
Because of the impact you see it has.
we live where we can find light when we look inside
Yep.
ourselves, as opposed to people that are
Right.
Russia that live in the darkness.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so yesh leimar shagam sheirish hanes the nitzach na milchama hu bavai delay shel mayla mishal sheskim mesiris nefesh shel matas yovan of hoisa shagam shoyu chaloshim matam mikol makom lach meneged gbarim rabim. Simply, what was the sacrifice? Is that the few and weak fought against the many and the strong. That's Mesiris Nefesh. V'kivin shal yidei Mesiris Nefesh shalem l'mayla mishal shel ba'adam imshichoy shel mayla mishal shel move on shanes the mesayt gbarim biad chaloshim v'rabim biad matam shenim shel yidei Mesiris Nefesh shalem hu mevay delayla. If we're saying that it's through our Mesiris Nefesh that we can draw Havai delayla, so then the miracle itself that happens is also, that's a manifestation of that higher level Havai delayla. So if so, so now it's even more confusing, because we're talking about a lower level. We're talking about the 24th. Now we're saying that even within there you have already the higher level. So then how So then how are we going back to 24 and 25 and lower levels and higher levels? What's going on? So we just said earlier, we started today's class talking about the fact that only the miracle of the oil lasting 8 days. What's different about that miracle? That's the one that comes from Havai Delayla. Whereas we said that the other two miracles were from the levels of Ishtalshalos, two different levels in Ishtalshalos. So how does that work? Now we're saying that in the miracle of the Mesiris Nefesh, they have already Havai Delayla. So Yeshlema Shebenisim Elu Hamshacha Hisa Belevushim De Ishtalshalos. Get the comments involved. What's the difference? That true that even in the Mesiris Nefesh they're accessing higher than Ishtalshalos and they're drawing from higher than Ishtalshalos, the ability to illuminate the darkness. It's just that how was that expressed? How was it played out in Levushim? It was enclosed within natural means. In other words, there's Mesiris Nefesh that's higher than Ishtalshalos. But how did it come about? Through physical war, through actual fighting. As will be clarified later. But truthfully, its source is also in the higher level of Havaya. Yeshlema shezel gam atayim al zeh shebemaimer zeh koil ashita shayom tov dechanaka nikva gam al nestem tzachna mochamas b'chdei l'ramez shegam nestem tzachna mochamas shaykh levay delayla. Remember, we talked about in earlier classes the different opinions about why Hanukkah is established. Is it established to commemorate the military victory or not? Right? We talked about all these different opinions. And in the beginning of the Maimer, the Rebbe said that our Maimer is based on that opinion, that Hanukkah is established also for the military victory. So based on what we just said, we can appreciate this even more. If in the military victory you already have this higher level of Havai Delayla, so of course Hanukkah would also be established for the military victory. Because you can't say, why would you establish it for a lesser Nes, a lesser miracle, a Yehuda Tata miracle? Because in that miracle you already have that higher level as well. So if we're celebrating the oil burning for 8 days, the supernatural, the highest level of miracle, that's already found also in the military victory. So it would follow then that Hanukkah is established for the military victory as well, because it has the same concept, right? And so that's what the Friedrich Rebbe is alluding to. The Rebbe is learning this into the Maimer by the fact that his Maimer is based on this opinion. So we're saying that it means that already that's because that's part of that miracle. That miracle as well is also a higher level of Havaya. Right? Why is Hanukkah 8 days and established 8 days? And we're saying for all these miracles is because it represents a level that's higher than the natural order. So why is Hanukkah then established? If Hanukkah is 8 days, and 8 is showing a higher than reality, than created reality. So if so, how do you establish it for the miracle of the oil, of the miracle of the victory, which is within nature? So the point is because really the depth of that miracle itself is also the higher level, is also the same theme, which we'll explain in chapter 6. We'll already get into more details, explain what that means. What does it mean also that it's a miracle that's in the Levush, that it's enclosed within it? What that means we'll get to Mirz Hashem in chapter 6.